Welcome to Opinion Havers, a movie podcast for fans of Sabaton. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Cody.
That's good. Very good, Cody. And I'm Tyler. And we're here to talk to you about movies. Cody, what movie are we here to talk about?
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. Cody, do you want to tell me and the millions of ravenous fans out there that listen to Joe Rogan's podcast what Saving Private Ryan is about?
There's this dude. His name's Ryan. Private Ryan. And he's in trouble. So...
Can I let me just stop you right there. Can you do this as Jordan Peterson?
No. Not even a little bit.
Oh, well, you know.
Hold on.
It was
let me yes
my
and
whole
you.
plan.
Let me yes and you. Okay. The question isn't whether Ryan needed to be saved. The question is whether World War II actually happened. If you look back at
There you go.
No. There you go. Okay, hold on. It's a story. It's a story of Tom Hanks. Oh, what? What are you gonna do? Don't make me.
I was gonna say now you need to get me 90% of the way there to believing that it never happened, and then be like, and that's when the aliens showed up, and I'll be like, okay.
No. Okay, hold on. But for real, Saving Private Ryan is a World War II movie where Tom Hanks leads a troop of men to save Private Ryan from whatever and send him home, you know, because he's got to go home, you know?
Yeah. Or as Tiffany felt it, as Woody leading a platoon in World War II. Because she was in the kitchen and she heard Woody. It's in between Toy Story 1 and 2.
Yeah. It's Toy Story 1.5. Yeah. Takes place in World War II on D-Day. Mm-hmm. And it's Woody, it's Buzz, it's Mr. Potato Head. All your favorites storming the beaches at Normandy.
Yeah. Just taking a nice beach day. It's the beach episode of the Toy Story franchise.
Yes.
Cody, let me take a side detour here. There's going to be a bunch of these, all right? I got bone to pick, okay? Yeah. No, Cody, I got bone to pick here with you right now. You know I watch a lot of documentaries, right? I put them on all the time. Here's the thing. What's up with the British? All right? They're up here, first off, making documentaries like it's going out of style. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing it like crazy. And I'm always like, you're doing it. You're killing it. And then they get to World War II, and they're like, yeah. And it's like the British, the Americans, the Australians, and the Russians all equally contributed to the war effort. And it's like, okay, now let me, like after D-Day, it's like, now let me stop you right there, British. Let me stop you right there. What are you talking about? First off, right?
I mean, isn't it their fault for letting Hitler take Poland? They were like, that's fine. This couldn't get worse.
I mean, they're the peace in our time people, you know? But I just think it's funny where they're like, oh, man, D-Day, Normandy landing, so brutal. Look, this is where the British soldiers landed, the worst. And it's like this super gentle slope up to like no fortifications at all, except for like one bunker way in the distance, like brutal. And then you see like where the American troops landed, you're like, oh, this is just a tiny beach with a wall in front of it. And it's just really funny the way that they talk, like, brutal, how we all landed on equally difficult to take beaches. And it's like, look, let's be real. Cody, let's be real. I'm about to throw it in. The Canadians fought for the British. The Canadians did everything that the British say they did. The Canadians are, let's talk about Canadians monsters, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Every time you're like, oh, this dude like a super soldier, he killed like 85 bad dudes, questionably bad dudes sometimes, but almost always real bad dudes, with like a stick and his own pinky that he'd cut off with a saw, you know? And it's like, oh, cool, he's probably American. It's like, no, he was Canadian. And then he went back and he opened up a marshmallow store. And it's like, what? They have an anger inside them, Cody.
They're like, you ever heard like people talk about those Polynesian boys that join the football teams? And they're like, they're these sweet mama boys. And then you throw them on the field, they become monsters. And they step off the field again, they're these sweet mama's boys, It's like that. Canada is like the Tonga of North America,
Yeah, that's what I've always said.
That's why they're so good at the hockey.
Yeah. Nobody cares about hockey, Cody. That's why I'm leaving Massachusetts. Let's never talk about
the
it.
British, though. I know why they make all the documentaries. It's because their best days are well behind them. They peaked a minute ago. Like, it's been a while. And so that's all they can do. All they can do is make these docs, look back in the past on the glory days. They Brexited, and they're done,
One of the documentaries I recently talked about, the person presenting did make a joke exactly like that. Like, that's why. Why are we making this? Because we got nothing to look forward to. Anyway, let's look at this old stuff.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Cody, so you did a good job. It's Woody. He's there. He's in France tearing it up.
Yeah.
What'd you think? You want to give me a
I've tried to watch this movie several times, and I'll get into how I failed to watch this movie in the past. But the thing about this movie is you can't really talk bad about it because it's one of those. It's one of those movies that's like, if you didn't like this movie, you might be a bad person, So it's a good one. But, yeah, it's intense. And it's pretty good, What about you? Where are you at?
It's going to be so loud.
Where are you at?
I touched my mic stand and just there's a huge spike in my audio now. That's going to be loud. I apologize. Cody, I'm here to talk bad about this movie. I mean, look. Thank you for your service, but get out of here, old man. That's, I think, kind of sums up how I feel about the movie. And I don't mean that as like the veteran's way, but I'm using that analogy of what you would say to a veteran as a movie. Mm-hmm. Like, you done good, son. Now go die. Now just go get in the hole and just let it go, boy. I say that to a white guy. It's not a race thing, Cody. How dare you? Just because it's a World War II movie, you're going to make it racist? That's not what I'm going for here. All right? That's not what I'm going for here. I was disappointed. I mean, that's, I guess, the best way to put it. I got more notes than that, but I was disappointed. I was going to, hold off until, and try to,
you didn't
tease you until we got into it. But
you liked it.
It was,
hold on. Is this your first viewing of this movie?
It's the first
Really?
First time I've ever seen
your
this
maiden
one.
voyage?
Yeah. Maiden voyage of this movie. And I'll get into some more of the specifics of it, but, talk about a disappointment. You know what I mean? It's like, this is how I feel like it feels to watch Citizen Kane. It's like a theater student or something that you're like, oh yeah, no, I got it. Like, the most important movie of all time is the best one, right? It's got to be one of the best. And then you watch it and you're like, that's just kind of a crummy old movie.
Wow. These are hot takes. You might get this podcast
it's demonetized. Not I don't think it's
down from the platforms,
Probably. Quibi will never want us on there now. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not like. I mean, there's some bad movies, but it's not. It's not bad. It's just not. It's not as good as everyone's saying.
It's a hot take, dude.
Wow. I believe in 1998, maybe, but. That's like 40 years ago, Cody.
That's true. I feel like now I
Yeah.
just need to know. I need to dive
Cody,
into it. I got questions. I need answers.
Cody, let's dive into it. Hop into. Really should have looked up like a really stupidly named, like World War II vehicle. Hop into my Rabbit, which seems like a very impractical thing to have. Impractical vehicle. Hop on in there. Sit weirdly in the back, like it's not meant for people, but it's got a seat like it's for people. Just sit on in there, Cody, and I'll drive us in. I'll drive us into Spoiler Town, USA, in France, in America.
You,
Do you want me to go first? You want to go first?
it's up to you. I mean, I'm scared. I'm scared of what you have to say a little bit. So,
I mean, you know what? Here's what I feel. You know what? You're sitting there. You don't know how you feel yet. Let me go first, so that puts you in the position of defending.
I mean, I got
okay?
I got stuff to say, but go ahead.
I mean, Cody, let's talk about it. Okay, so they get there, the landing on the beaches, right? First off, the decision, they start with a dude not old enough to be shuffling like this. I'm here to say, if you're that guy and you're shuffling like that, Grandpa, you gotta stop. You're faking it at this point. Everybody out there, go, just shove him. Just shove your grandpa. I guarantee you, he'll catch himself like a ninja. He's fine. He can move faster. He's doing it for attention. Don't believe him. All right? You got to treat him like a toddler because that's all he is, and that's all he'll ever be. Who cares that he fought in some war that nobody cares about anymore? At this point, your grandpa, he didn't fight in World War II. He fought in some war that we lost by most, like, liberals, college students that are halfway through their liberal arts degree the way they believe, right? That we lost every war we've ever fought in, right? That's how it goes, Cody. Look, here's the thing, Cody. I gotta change my tune here because I recently said to you that I'm the most liberal person that you know, and I'm sick of it, okay? But I gotta defend that title. So let's say, all right, look, there were boys in this movie. I didn't like it, and also antlers are homophobic or something. I don't understand it, but that's what I believe in my heart, okay? That's what's wrong with the movie is the guns. Anyway, so then the Landon iconic scene, right? They finally get to it. It takes a million years. They're like, oh, the lady, let's talk about this lady at the beginning. I know you're thinking this is a lot of time to spend on the beginning, but the guy goes to take a picture of the old man. And she's like, no, not the time. Cody, first off, Bailey would do that to you. That'd be real. But also, you would do that to Bailey. I believe both of you would do this to each other. I hate anybody that would do this. Because, like, look, if you're not going to take a picture in this moment, it's never the time to take a picture. It's like in movies, they're all like, now's not the time. Leave the video camera behind. But then, now, everybody's like, I can't believe they recorded all this. It's so amazing. And we love it. And it's so, like, historic. It, like, gives us all this extra stuff. And it's so amazing. And we're so happy that they did it. But in a movie, if a guy was like, no, I'm not going to help you save this dude's life. I'm going to keep recording him dying. Everybody would be like, that's a bad person. But then you watch the video that somebody took of some medic trying to save a dude's life. And you're like, amazing. So check your privilege. I don't know which end of the political spectrum that would land on, but check your privilege, whoever you are. All right. You're probably white, probably American. All right. The D-Day landing scene, iconic. Here's the thing. One of the least chaotic modern takes on the D-Day landings I think I've ever seen, which I think is why I understand now why so many of the veterans are like, that's what it was like. Because some of these, it seems like the amount of bodies that they pile up in some movie, like there's one movie that they have a D-Day where they're like, there's more fake bodies than the amount of people who actually stormed the beaches of D-Day, of Normandy on D-Day. So this is very believable where it feels like people are dying. Because I'm not gonna lie, Cody. If we land on, you and me, let's go. Let's rent a boat. Let's storm Normandy Beach, all right? You get blown in half immediately. Because, of course, you're gonna, right? Because everybody thinks fat guy gonna get it. But then you get it, Cody. Because you're the smaller target. Of course you are. I'm freaking out. I'm crying. My hand's shaking. Anyway, then they go, right? They do some stuff. They capture the beach. It's whatever. Who cares? It's in the past. Nobody cares about it anymore. right? And then they proceed to basically just tell the story of Band of Brothers, but try to make out Easy Company is a bunch of idiots that effed up because their planes got shot down and the pilots dropped them in the wrong spot. They're like, paratroopers, the worst. And I was like, where is this coming from? And that's when I noticed the Ranger tag on their shoulder. Let's talk about the most pretentious group of people in the United States. Everybody thinks, oh, well, who is it? Ivy League graduates, people from California, Mexicans. Who knows who it could be? I'm here to tell you it's the Rangers. It's the Rangers. It's the Army Rangers. They go to summer camp and then they're like, I'm the best of the best. And it's like, come on, man. You know, why weren't you scaling that cliff? That's what the Rangers were supposed to be doing, Cody. Why weren't they on that cliff? Anyway, they're out there talking about the paratroopers are the worst of the worst. We hate them. They suck. They didn't do it right. And then, you know, they find all these people. They're doing stuff. They do the things where they're like, oh, they're counting the what are they called? Dog tags, like they're poker chips. And then it seems like the only person that was like a good person in their whole group was their medic. Like he was consistently like, I'm a good person, Doc, as you call him. And he's like, you guys are monsters all the time. You know what I'm saying?
All right, Tyler, I have to cut you off right there, and I guess I'll talk about mine. Like, here's the thing. You watch this movie and you're like, oh yeah, vets couldn't watch it because it was too real. And then you come out here and tell me it wasn't real enough? You know, what do you want? How do you want it? Here's the thing. This movie is a fairy tale where they took all the fun and cool little stories from World War II and made a movie about it. You know, like, this isn't an actual mission. But what they did is they took real things that happened and worked it all in to make it a, not fun movie, but, you know, like a good action war movie packaged up in some, you know, sweet brotherhood, patriot messages, you know? That's why I'm mad about it, is it's like, you worked so hard to make the D-Day landing look authentic and real and not pull any punches with the violence and the gore. But, like, you made it all up at the same time. So what's that about? You know, that's the only thing that, like, rubs me the wrong way about it, because I do think it's a very well-made movie. Great intro scene, but really, like the intro scene is excellent, and it starts off the movie in such, like, a stark, like, oh gosh, this is wild. Just seeing what people went through just to, like, you know, I don't know, for us to insert ourselves as Americans into World War II, like, it's wild. The cost of, like, getting a foothold back in France to, like, start fighting back, you know? Because, as we established, Britain did a bad job. You know, whatever. So, that's cool. But I really enjoyed, like, the whole chain of command of, like, you know, seeing all the people writing all the letters to the people that were deceased and realizing that 3 or 4 brothers had died, and the leaders being like, no, this is the right thing to do. We need to get him back. And Tom Hanks being the guy to be like, no, we need to follow our orders. This is an important mission. And, like, everyone coming to terms with that. I also enjoyed, like, they're all like, this Private Ryan guy better not be a douche. And then he's like a good dude because it's Matt Damon, you know, but he's like, hey, we all fought to be here. Why should I, you know, they didn't fight any harder than me. Why should I leave? Whatever. And so the compromise is we'll all die instead. So that's what they do. But I like the message of, like, hey, it's the, like, everyone's sacrificing themselves in service for the other person, which is kind of part of the point of World War II, is, like, all these nations standing up and saying, hey, look, we're not Poland and we're not France, but it's wrong the way Hitler is treating these countries and the people in his own country and the Jewish population and everything. So I like all that. Yeah, I think it's a very good movie. I think the music's good. I don't know that it's, like, as good as some of the other John Williams. Is it John? It has to be John Williams, right? Scores, like you did for, like, Jaws or Jurassic Park. But it is good. I don't know. I think it's a great movie. I have questions. Well, my favorite thing about the movie is I learned a new way to track time, and it's D-Day Plus. So in the movie, it's like D-Day plus 3. Like, oh, it's 3 days since D-Day. So, in case you're wondering, today is D-Day plus 29,246. I propose, instead of AD and BC and, all that, we change it. Everything's D-Day plus or minus. What do you think? And it's days. It's not years, it's days. So we're on D-Day plus 29,246, and we'll just keep going from there. I found a website that'll tell you how many days it's been since a date, and that's how I got my calculation. So that's the new source of truth for the universe. Let's see. What else? Here's the thing. If you're holding your own arm, your arm's gone. Leave it. It's gone. They got this guy trying to find his arm. He finds his arm. He picks it up. It's like, guy, your arm's holding your arm. That arm's gone, That arm's basically like a stick, You're in the middle of a war. Drop your stick, and leave it be. Put some pressure on that thing. If you're out here carrying your arm, what's going to be stopping the bleeding of your stump, That's what I'm saying. What else? Oh, I think my favorite line of the movie was they're doing their little like soldier banter, and he's like, your mother would be real disappointed if she saw that, and Tom Hanks is like, I thought you were my mother. I was like, it tickled me, that made me laugh. Woody got me, Woody with the zingers, always a good choice. How about Helmet Guy? This guy gets rocked in the dome with a bullet against his helmet, doesn't die, pulls off his helmet to be like, funny. Well, look at that, my helmet worked, and then he gets shot again right in the head. God, like that. I will say, they do the Darwin Awards, and it's like, here's the newest dumbest way to die. Congratulations, that guy is won. He's the winner of World War II Darwin Awards. It's what saved his life, and then he takes it off. And it's one thing to take it off when you're undercover. He's not undercover. He's like stood up in the same spot where he got shot, and then he takes off his helmet. What's he thinking? I've been to paintball. You learn pretty quick. Oh yeah, I don't. There's no messing around when you're not undercover.
But here's the thing. It's like, oh, he died because he took his helmet off. But if his helmet had been on, a direct hit from a large caliber round, that's going to go through the helmet anyway. So here's the thing. So many of the moments that you're supposed to be like, oh, man, if they'd just done this, or like, look, if I may, Cody.
Yeah.
Real quick, just leapfrog to the very end and get to the heart of the issue, and then we can go back and go through the whole thing, right?
Okay.
Their sacrifice meant nothing. It was pointless and meaningless.
Why? Because the cavalry comes in right after?
Yeah. Had they just all been like, all right, let's leave. Those planes would have gotten there at the same time. There may have been 2 tanks across that bridge. And it's like, well, they would have dug in. It's like, yeah. The planes and the artillery would have taken care of that. And it's like, but they would have blown up the bridge. That's what you would say. Right? So I guess maybe then you could argue, okay, it's not. But they tried to.
I actually think this is a theme of the movie, because there's several times where they're like, hey, this isn't our mission. This isn't our thing. There's the one where there's that machine gun all set up, and Tom Hanks is like, all right, we're going to take it. And they're like, seems like an unnecessary risk. He's like, well, look, we don't want the next guys behind us to get ambushed by it, and he keeps making those decisions, and he has to try to live with them. And he talks about like, I've 94 dudes have died in my command, and you try to say I did it to save the other guys or to save the mission, or I think part of it is what it boils down to is, your mission and your order, everything is in service of winning the war, and therefore the individual doesn't really matter, except in this case, where they've chosen to serve one individual for the greater good and put Private Ryan above their own survival, So I think that's kind of like a theme of the movie is, at the end of the day, you can get really unlucky or really lucky, but like, you're all pawns in this greater purpose,
Yeah. Which one thing I did think was interesting was the way he talked about it is the way nowadays they don't necessarily teach you that until you become a major, which is when you get into what's considered a command position,
Mm-hmm.
where you won't know the names of all the people under your command.
Mm-hmm.
You know the name of the like unit under your command. But you know, like right where you around where you live or where I grew up, right? That's where the officer school is
Mm-hmm.
that all the army officers have to go to, and that's like the thing. When I asked one of the instructors there, like, what do you guys really teach them to like go to math class? He's like, really, we teach them how to stop thinking of soldiers as people and start thinking them as numbers and things to be exchanged. So you got to think, yeah,
Just
I'm going
like
to
chess,
spend
where it's like
100 guys.
I'll swap a
1,000,
knight
you know,
for a
yeah.
rook. You know.
Yeah, and he said the reason it's not necessarily you want them to be heartless. You want them to be like, you want to be like, hey, these are people, but also like if they think about like, well, if I do this, then Jim and John and Kevin and Larry, they're all gonna die. Then they'll never make decisions like sending guys to defend a point to like
Or to
evacuate
take
a
a
bunch of
beach when you
civilians.
know they're all
Yeah,
gonna get a bunch of them gonna get roasted.
and I thought that was interesting because that's like one of the big command dynamics of like why you pair like a captain or a lieutenant with the sergeant. It's like the sergeant's job is to be kind of one of the guys to care about the men and do all that stuff. Your job is to be a heartless bastard
Mm-hmm.
as the officer, you know. And like he says, like when they're like, Captain, don't you gripe?" He's like, "I don't gripe to you. I gripe to my superiors."
Mm-hmm.
It goes up, and I was like, "That's such like a growing up like with my dad. My dad was a captain when he got out of the Air Force, and like the way he talked about it, the way my brothers who were both sergeants when they left, the way they talk about their time in the Army, it's like it's exactly what they say. It's like you don't gripe if you're a sergeant. You don't like when you're like in charge of a big group of guys. You don't gripe in front of them. You gripe in front of the officer in charge, or in front of like the master sergeant or something. You don't gripe to them. They gripe to you. You gripe up. You know, you always go up. They need to see you as that. You always need to be like a heartless killing machine in their eyes, so that if push comes to shove, you can do, like my dad didn't have to deal with it much because he was like office role, and when his combat role was he was an MP, so
Mm-hmm.
you know, mostly just arrested drunk guys.
Yeah.
You know, had to beat up some drunk sailors once, I think, in another country. That was fun. But I did think it was funny. Like I feel like the movie overall is like you take it versus like I can very clearly see how Band of Brothers was an attempt to recreate this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was but it's like comparing them, it's like one, they spent way more,
Attempt to recreate
I'm
is
sure,
a
on Band of
strong.
Brothers.
Tom Hanks is a producer of Band of Brothers, so
That's what I'm
like
saying,
there's a
but, like,
direct through line of like
re
you learn the history of this, and I think they wanted to do it as a miniseries and give it more time, and
Yeah.
you know, tell the actual
Well,
stories
that's what I mean, like,
versus
recreate the moment that this was, where it's like let's tell a realistic, but let's do it as like you said, like a mini series with more money, more time to dwell on it. You know, because the guys they're interacting with for a lot of it are the guys that they're Easy Company. Like while Easy Company is scattered, that's the guys that they're kind of encountering, and he's part of Easy Company, which is who you follow in Band of Brothers. But I do also feel like comparing them is a little unfair because it is a mini series.
well, one's based in
With-
fact, and the other one is like historical fiction. You know,
Yeah. But
that's
which
what's
one's
weird
which,
about
Cody?
Saving Private Ryan is it's like full on historical fiction of the
Yeah,
war.
which
you
I mean,
know?
like people always say there was a real like this kind of situation where, but it was like I think mom had like 5 sons or something, and all of them had died, and they pulled a guy out. But it wasn't quite as dramatic. Like they didn't have to fight across because he was just one of the landing guys or
Mhm.
something. They didn't have to fight across. They just kind of had to. Took them a couple days to find him in the confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't a squad that got wiped out trying to get him out, you know. But there is like somebody who is the real
Right.
Private Ryan. And like you said, I'm sure every one of these has like a basis in a real story.
Yeah.
But you even take like some of the stories about in like in Band of Brothers, right? Where there's lots of those where people are like, I mean, that's probably not true. That story that's based on. But it's like the story that the guys told around the fire at night when they're like, you know, it's guarding somewhere where they're like, man, did you hear about, you know, Captain Fisher or whatever, Spears? Lieutenant Spears and how cool he is. I don't know if you remember Lieutenant Spears. Do you do a yearly rewatch of Band of Brothers, Cody? Cody, you say that you went through your super conservative phase, but you don't do a yearly rewatch of Band of Brothers, sir. You've never been more than a central Democrat, all right? How dare you? He's a cool guy, anyway. Yeah. And he's like one of the guys he's based on a real person. But it's just like, I feel the same way I do about this that I do about like The Shining, where I'm like, I'm sure it was awesome at the time, but it's been done just better so many times.
What's your better World War II movie than this?
Better World War II movie? Because I would be like, Band of Brothers is the better version of it.
Well, better. What's a better movie? What's a better war movie than this?
I'm trying to think of one I've seen recently. Battleship. No, but I do think about like.
What about 1917?
Bad ones. That one's pretty good, but it's like, it's also boring, but it's more brutally realistic, right? Than this one, I would say. But it's also World War One, which is much more. It's like every day's D-Day.
Yeah.
With going over the sides of the trenches and everything. I think. Let me. You tell me about.
I got a lot to say.
Why you hate this movie?
Well, no. Look,
I'm gonna look.
I have very few gripes with it. I do. Part of me is like wishes there was more creative like lighting and cinematography, but I think it was probably a very deliberate choice. But I also see that with a lot of movies of this era where it's like they didn't get very creative with like their lighting and cinematography. But I think it was probably very intentional because I think he wanted it to feel very like grounded in reality. I think the only thing he did was like desaturate some of the colors, just to make it. And I guess it was like a big issue when it first came out, that like TV stations and stuff were like turning the brightness back or the saturation back up or whatever to make it look less washed out because people were complaining. They were like, hey, my TV set's broken or this movie's bad or, something's wrong with it. So I guess there had to be like a statement where it's like, hey, this is how I made the movie. It's fine. Classic. Live with it. So I do think it was intentional in that way. I think it's well done. It's well acted. It's pretty well written as well. So I don't have major complaints. I didn't love the dude. It felt like very action movie gimmicky. The sniper guy like quoting scriptures and prayers and stuff. I found it a little bit obnoxious, but I'm sure it's like based on a real dude, But that was one thing that I was like, this makes it feel less like a war drama and more like an action movie, But there were a few things in the movie that kind of did that.
But I would, because I felt the same way about him at first. Like the first third to first half of the movie, I was like, come on, man, this is so played out. But I was like, but every character I've ever seen is probably based, like, they're just copying this dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
sure.
This probably wasn't a played out trope at the time. Like, this dude was like the Southern guy that's a good shot, right? Because he had to hunt for his food growing up or whatever. That's the classic World War II trope.
Yeah.
Right? You got the Italian, you got the Jew, you got the Southern, you got the captain that is just from a vague northern state, right?
Yeah.
And you got the sergeant that where are you from, Sarge? I'm from your mama or whatever, like that. Like that's the squad.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you got the private, the newbie,
right?
The what's it called? The FNG. There we go.
Yeah, sure. So why did they hate the language guy so much? Is it because he's just like a desk dude and they thought he was a liability? He's like, because he's a nerd? Is that why?
Because he's the FNG. He's the new guy. He's the twink.
Oh,
he's the twerp.
Cool.
He's the little guy. Even though I did think it was funny because I realized, I don't know
it's
why.
It's not nice to treat a kid with autism like
end.
That, Like, it really isn't.
Cody, you know what they called autism back in the day?
What?
I don't know. Something that you can't say now,
right,
sure.
Yeah.
But, they hit you is what they did. But I did realize, I was like, these guys are like all privates, and he's like a corporal, so he does outrank all of them. Especially in the World War II army, like by a significant amount.
Yeah. That dude.
Which I think is funny.
Talk about how that dude did not redeem himself. If you listen to your dude die, you don't even try. Don't try to save him, and then you don't avenge him, and then later he does kill that dude that they set free, but only after he kills Captain whatever, Captain Tom Hanks. So it's like
Yeah.
you tried to redeem yourself, but I don't forgive you. You know, I'm glad you found your courage 30 minutes too late, but like,
Yeah, once the tanks and the planes and the rest of the
killed
army's
two
here,
people.
you got real courageous.
Yeah, it was bad. So I will say that dude that got stabbed was probably the like most harrowing on-screen death I've ever experienced. I was stressed out of my mind watching him like slowly be stabbed in the heart to death, like, and the dude just like
The slow
talking, and the
stab.
guy being like, "What does that mean? What are you saying?" What? It's just like, oh, this is horrifying, you know. Okay, let me rewind a bit. Let me tell you the story of how I saw this movie. So,
Tell me.
14 years ago, I tried to watch this movie in college. This is back in the day. Are you ready? This is when Netflix barely had video on demand. This is in the DVD era of Netflix. I had put in my queue Saving Private Ryan, and I got a little paper sleeve with the DVD Saving Private Ryan. I popped that sucker in my laptop, and I was ready to go. You know, I was ready to watch this movie. Got about 18 and a half minutes in, and as soon as I see Vin Diesel, bam, that DVD gave out. It would not play any further than Vin Diesel's first appearance. So I did start this movie 14 years ago, and I've seen most of it at another point, but I don't know that it was like a sitting where I watched it all at once. I cannot, most of this movie felt very familiar. So this is probably my second time seeing the movie, I guess. But yeah, it was one that was on my watch list forever, and I tried and I failed, and I was like, one day some hero will come along and ask me to watch this movie, and you are that hero. Congratulations. This movie made me hate Paramount Plus because I also started it on Paramount Plus, and then I was like, oh gosh, I have stuff to do. I have to switch this over to my phone. As soon as I got on my phone, they're like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. You have no internet connection. I was like, that's hilarious because I can watch videos on anything else, including Prime Video, YouTube, whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so I was like, I'll work my way around the system. I'll download this movie. Then they can't say nothing. Got about 75% downloaded after 2 hours, and it never finished downloading. I was like, well, surely it'll let me watch it since it's mostly downloaded. Same deal. They're like, dude, you have no connection. I was like, well, how have you been downloading it for the last 2 hours if there's no connection? So I had to swap on over to Amazon Prime. Thanks for saving the day, Amazon Prime. And now, Paramount Plus, you're dead to me, you know? Until football season's back on and I have to watch football on you, you know? But until then, you're useless to me.
I watched it on Peacock.
It took me 14 years to finish this movie, you know?
Yeah.
My other favorite thing about this movie is the cast. Everybody's in this movie. Vin Diesel's in this movie. Tom Hanks in this movie. My two favorite surprise people, Tim Whatley, a.k.a. Heisenberg, a.k.a. Bryan Cranston, rolls up in this movie like it's no big deal. Also, my other favorite bit from this movie is when they break the news to the wrong Private Ryan that all his brothers are dead. And I was like, is that Nathan Fillion? And I had to look it up because he was so young. I was like, that can't be Nathan Fillion still. Is that the rookie? And sure enough, it was Nathan Fillion, but I loved it. I saw it coming. You see it coming, you know. You're like, this can't be it. You know, we're not long enough in the runtime. But sure enough, you know, you got to get the middle name in there, you know. But yeah, he's like, my brothers are in grammar school, you know. It's just like, all right, get out of here. He's like, you're sure they're okay? He's like, I don't know, dude. You're the wrong dude. Get out of here, you know. But it's a good bit, you know. It's bound to happen. And they learn their lesson because when they find Matt Damon, they're like, John Francis Ryan? They're like, yeah, from Iowa? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. Your brothers are dead. You know, just like, good job, Woody. You nailed it. You finally got it right.
He got there in the end, you know.
Oh,
you know, my favorite part is like, I bet if you pull up in like on map and look at how far did they go, it's like 2.5 miles or something like that. That's what I'm always like. It's always like, oh, this harrowing journey that
it's
took
not
them
like
6
they
weeks.
show them multiple nights or anything. It's like they show one night, right? They show that it's D-Day. They show that it's D-Day +3. They show them camping out once, and then they're there.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. There's like right there.
They did make a meal out of it, though. You know, they added in all the little good bits. I also enjoyed Paul
yeah.
Giamatti being in here, being like, "I'm too old. My ankle hurts." I'm like, "Oh, Paul."
Yeah. The fact that he's also it. So I liked that too because having a brother that went through jump school and shattered his spine. Um, I mean, he would say he didn't shatter it. He crushed a couple vertebrae.
Oh yeah.
It's fine. Um, it is like anytime you somebody who's like been through jump school or has to do jumps regularly, they're always like, oh gosh, my knees or my ankle or my back. It's like you're supposed to be the most hardcore soldier the human race has to offer, and you're like, my back hurts real bad though. I gotta take some leave with me into combat. It's like, but it's like this dude will kill you, and no one will ever know that he was there. And it's like, but his ankles might click clack while he's doing it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it's always so funny. So I thought it was like, yeah. So like to their credit, I think they did a lot of. There's a lot of those moments that is believable, you know, like where it's like, yeah, this is kind of how these guys really were. They weren't these like super stoic, cool guys or wieners. They were all kind of. They're like everybody. They're like just dudes.
They're young
that they gave guns and like go kill people.
And there's that psyche of the military where it's like you're facing death and you can get used to it in some ways and not in other ways, but like your sense of humor becomes so morbid, you know, where it's just like, yeah, it's just.
I mean, did you ever do like? Like you hung out with dudes. You just bunch of dudes being bros. You know what I'm saying? When you were like 16, stuff got dark, man. And then just imagine like, all right, let's put guys that are all like this,
and your friends are all dead, and you've killed a man.
Let's bond them together, and it's like just gonna get worse.
Sure,
but it's also, I think it's funny because you also got to remember sometimes like the a lot of the training that they do nowadays to prep soldiers to like shut their brain off, obey an order, and then turn it back on after the fight's done, you know, where it's like you're just gonna move into autopilot and do what the sergeant is shouting at you to do. They didn't do that at this point. They didn't know how. They weren't as good at brainwashing people as they are now. And I always think about that. Like that would be rough.
World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam are all good, good chances to learn how to train soldiers. Yeah,
because it was Vietnam, right? When they started, like, hey, maybe we should. When the guy was like, we should make the guys, make the cutouts of dudes the targets for target practice, and that's what kind of led into the like, hey, if we just like have them perform the killing motions, then they'll just do it without thinking. And it won't even really register what they just did for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
That was like all the big wars were before that. And now it's like, you just shoot a guy. You just shoot him, Cody. Shoot him in the face. You know, how many guys you shot in the face in Call of Duty, you know?
Oh, I mean, Battlefield 1, I'd have the Medal of Honor, you know, for shooting guys in the face. Like,
they'd be like, it's weird that you only use the tank gun, but
the amount of buildings have collapsed on snipers with the tank gun. I mean, absolutely.
Best sniper in the U.S. Army, but maybe you should use a sniper rifle.
But with the tank gun.
Look, the bigger the bullet, the more you can miss by, you know?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot more to say about the movie. My other big like writing question for this movie is like, there's two German guys they let you really hate, right? Or is it the same dude? There's the one that they're making dig the grave, and then Tom Hanks is like, take 1,000 paces, turn yourself in, and the guys are all mad. They're like, should have shot him, you know, whatever. And then he rolls back and is the one that shoots Tom Hanks later, right? Is he the same guy as the dude that stabs the guy while what's his name watches? Or is that a middle German?
It's not
dude?
That guy.
So there's two. Okay,
that's a different one.
Because that's always confused me. Because they bring him back, and I'm like, wait, was that the same guy, or is this, you know?
They all look very similar.
Yeah.
The thing is, these guys were all like SS, and it's funny because like at the time, I feel like there weren't. I mean, there's not as many documentaries and stuff. There's not as much. like, I feel like there's still this. I mean, you know, you think back to like what people thought about the World War II. It's like what you learned in school, and it's like most of it's wrong or like really misunderstood. Like the SS were monsters. Like, if you could go back in time, anytime they capture an SS guy, you'd just be like, you should just kill these guys because they're like they're like the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who doesn't have that SS on their shoulder, they're fine probably. That you can capture them, do whatever. But they got the SS, nah, they're not coming back from that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So they show back up and they're all SS, and it's like, you just let this guy go. The worst of the worst. Like, of course, I did see. Did you see the? I don't know if you looked through the trivia at all for this.
Look through a bit.
But the one that it was like the first one that popped up for me was the guys that were surrendering, like that first couple of guys during the D-Day landings, and they were speaking Czech. And the guy's like, "I'm Czech," and they were saying like, "I'm Czech. I haven't killed anybody. I'm not German. You know, don't kill me."
Yeah, they were like
shot
Czech prisoners that the Germans had with them.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, the SS had like 4 foreign battalions. They were also bad people and Nazis. So, you know, but also there were prisoners that were forced to like guard places, which I never understand how that works. When they're like, hey, all of you prisoners of war, you're going to be the only people we set up here. Mm-hmm. It's like, I feel like you should have a couple Germans there too, at least, you know?
I mean, like, they're good for catching bullets, you know? It worked.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I think there was like a French battalion or something that they were like, French soldiers, go fight the British. And the like French guys showed up, massively outnumbered the British. And they're like, oh no, you got us. We surrender. And it's like 1,000 French guys.
Yeah.
They're like, oh darn. Whoopsie doodle.
Yeah.
You got us. But I can never find anything to prove that. I just remember reading it in a book, like a history book once. So I'll try to find it. So if you're out there, you listen to Joe Rogan.
And since I choose to believe you, it's not part of my reality. Therefore, it's a true fact.
There we go. There's the conservative nut job. I know.
I did think it was very interesting. I never realized there were Star of David plots at Arlington. And you can see it, like he has all these shots of like the crosses in rows and rows. But then right behind Matt Damon's old man character is the Star of David one, which I was like, look at you, Steven Spielberg. You know, sneaking
Did you
it
notice
in there.
There's like one there's like a couple of them. There's one that's the simple white marble, and then there's a fancier one because you can pay to have nicer looking ones too. Or you just get the free one that they post up that's like granite or whatever. But yeah, there's a few different styles. I was just gonna look it up because there are different for different religions because not everybody digs on that cross, right?
Know? Do I get a little Moroni? Is that what I would get?
I'm trying to. I was like trying to rack my brain to be what it was. I think of some of them.
Or
it is
just like a cup of coffee with the crossed out, you know.
Yeah.
Either one. I'm cool with either one. I have a few more like general thoughts, and some fun facts. I think first off, like this decade of the 90s is wild for Stephen King. He made Hook, then he made Jurassic Park, then he made wait, hold on. Let me get the actual order of it. So he made Hook, Jurassic Park. Where is it at? Schindler's List, Amistad, which is about the slave ship, and then Saving Private Ryan, which is like a wild run of movies to have, like back to back to back. All like really successful movies, except maybe Amistad, but still not a bad movie by any means. Just crazy that he went from like Peter Pan movie, dinosaur movie, Holocaust movie, slave ship movie, World War II movie. You know, like it's crazy what he did in that decade. It's kind of a bananas run.
Well, look, Stephen King, he's a prolific.
Did I say Stephen
dude,
Sping?
You know?
Stephen King. Oh my gosh.
Stephen Sping.
I've been misspeaking all day. Why'd you let me record this podcast?
That's when they fuse together. They do the fusion.
What's his name? Steven Spielberg. Got it. Nailed Spielberg. It. Didn't mess it up. All right, we got the Christian cross. We got a Buddhist one. Yeah. We got the Star of David. Presbyterian cross. Oh, they think they're better than the Christian cross?
I'm just going to tell you
Russian
there's 98
Orthodox
of them.
cross,
So.
Lutheran cross, Episcopal cross,
Okay.
Unitarian. Come on, Unitarians. Methodist is cool because they got the. It's the cross, but it's got the little fling.
whistle.
That's cool. Oh, Angel Moroni, number 11, nailed it.
It's got to be different.
Aaronic
right?
Order Church, Native American Church in North America. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Ooh, Muslim Crescent. Oh, there's an atheist, and it's just the
Atheist?
atom.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Community of Christ. Oh my goodness. It's a dude and a lamb and a lion. Nice.
Wow. Some of them are interesting. It is cool because you learn like there's a lot of.
Wow.
Oh,
they got the Wicca. They got the Wicca pentagram thing.
Nice.
I better close my door. Hold on.
Oh no! Oh, you're being attacked. Oh, you're dying. Oh dear. Oh, it's
Hold
the
on.
worst. Oh no.
There we go. Now we're good.
Oh.
I ran over a bunch of plastic on the floor, so that's gonna sound really nice in the microphone. Okay, I have more to say about this. Oh, there's an infinity sign. Yes, you can just get an infinity sign.
Did you scope number 45? Because that's a good one. There.
45. Ooh, what even is that? Cohen hands?
I believe
The Spock? They're just doing the
it
Spock
looks
thing,
an
right? That's
awful
live
lot
long
like
and prosper.
Spock. Looks an awful lot like Spock.
Cool.
It appears to be older than that by a
Well,
lot.
I got the Jesus fish. That's cool. Oh my goodness, shepherd and flag. It's a German shepherd with an American flag. That's the one. I'm converting to whatever religion that is. One that worships the German shepherd. Cool. Okay, I have more thoughts about this though. So it's crazy that Stephen King had this run of movies.
Steven Spielberg.
Oh my gosh, Spielberger. Got it.
Spielberg.
I do think like his ability. I think we've talked about it a bit. Like he has so many movies. He's directed 58 movies. This includes shorts though and some like extra stuff. But you know, he's probably in the 40s or 50s still. Tons of movies. He can make like really high quality movies that don't lose their broad appeal. Like by all means, Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan should not be like big commercially successful movies. They should be like Oscar-winning films that get like a decent following and make some money in perpetuity because they're very good films. But both of them were like huge for the time, you know, like they were a big deal. So to make an R-rated movie, you know, like that can appeal to many people, it's just really impressive, I think. The writer of this movie, Robert Rodat, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but he wrote a movie I totally forgot about ducks in 1996. It's about a dude, it's Jeff Daniels, and they like create a contraption to help some Canadian geese learn how to fly again. It's called Fly Away Home, and I remember seeing it in theaters, and I totally forgot it existed until today when I was looking at who worked on this movie.
Cody, how can you forget?
So there you
Fly
go. A
Away
father
Home?
and
That's
daughter
what I
decide
wanna
to
know.
attempt to lead a flock of orphaned Canada geese south by air. So it's about a family
you're gonna
just
come at me?
flying the geese south.
Dude comes in and he's like, "Give me the geese. You just come in here, you clip their wings." And he's got a pair of nail clippers, and he was gonna clip the wing. And she's like, "No!" And they're like, "Get out of here, you're a bad dude." And then they get their little, what's it called, the ultralight glider,
Yep.
thing that they fight, and that's what they use. How you're coming at me like I don't, like I didn't
When was
have
the last time
VHS
you
of this
thought about
movie?
Fly Away Home?
Honestly, a couple months ago, because I was talking to Tiffany about it.
I mean, I haven't thought about it since like 1998. This guy also wrote The Patriot, which came out just a year or two after this, and then Thor: The Dark World. So
Nice.
also a very interesting resume. The other thing about this movie is it won 5 Oscars, but sort of inexplicably it lost Best Picture. So the winner of Best Picture, can you guess it? Did you maybe see it in the trivia?
I'm gonna guess it's
It's a Harvey Weinstein
Knight's
produced
Tale.
movie. So
Titanic.
Shakespeare in Love won over not only Saving Private Ryan, but also the movie Life is Beautiful. And I have a theory behind this. There's a more realistic explanation. My theory is you can't do two World War II movies in the same voting ballot because they split the vote. So I think they probably split the vote a bit because one's like a Holocaust-focused World War II movie and one's like a battle-focused World War II movie. And instead it got Shakespeare in Love. More likely it's just Harvey Weinstein's, conniving dude and really aggressively campaigned for Shakespeare in Love and may have actually also talked bad about Spielberg and this movie. So that's fun. It's just wild to me what ends up winning Best Picture sometimes. I've not seen all of Shakespeare in Love. I have seen the play version of it, and it's not bad. It's not bad at all, but I highly doubt it's better than Life is Beautiful or Saving Private Ryan, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably not.
I have 3 more fun facts, if you like
me.
them. So part of the reason they cast Matt Damon was they were looking for like an unknown like new talent. Steven Spielberg nailed it. Did not anticipate Good Will Hunting coming out between when they shot this and when Saving Private Ryan came out. So it totally ruined his plan because Good Will Hunting came out. He won an Oscar for the writing, and anyway, so he became a movie star before this came out, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Would you like
Classic.
to guess how much money the beach scene cost to shoot?
I already saw. Oh, I saw it, Cody.
11 million bones.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
That's
money.
a lot of bones.
It's a lot of bones. More bones than I can spare. And finally, I thought it was interesting. They did record live ammunition gunfire for the sound effects. So that's kind of cool. So I think there's a lot they did to really like try to honor like the authenticity of like showing and like there's a lot of trivia about Steven Spielberg being approached to be like, hey, look, we can't release it in this country. Like in India, they're like, we can't release it because of the violence. And like I guess the prime minister or someone important sat down and watched it. And he's like, no, you need to release it. Like it's okay. I think Spielberg also said that even if it got like an NC-17 rating from the violence, he would have just released it uncut because he believed in showing, a realistic depiction of what happened. And there was another country that actually it never got released in. It was, I forget which one, but yeah, it was like, yeah, no, you can't see it. It's too violent. And he was like, I won't cut it or change it, which is cool. So, respect.
Classic.
That Stephen King guy, he really knows what he's
he's
doing
a
when
good
it comes
guy.
to movies.
Oh yeah,
and
he does
directing
for
them.
sure. Here's the thing, like I'm not here. So my feelings on it overall, right, are not that it's not a good movie. It is that it's just like this is a movie that it's the grandfather of all of the other war movies I've seen, right? Like I
You're
don't
saying
think
the
you
medium
get,
has like advanced since this time.
well, I don't think you get things like Dunkirk or what were the other ones that we listed, like 1917. You don't get Apocalypse Now. You don't get
Apocalypse Now? Stop.
I don't think you get no
Apocalypse Now
Hacksaw
came out
because
like
here-
79.
Is it?
Apocalypse Now is like a 70s, 80s movie. It isn't.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Well before.
I was looking at a different one. I was looking at the Covenant. And I read Apocalypse Now. You're right. But like okay, let's take Apocalypse Now because I think that is a good actually thing to compare it to, right? Is that
Black Hawk Down.
we watched
Nailed
that.
it. There's another. Hurt Locker. There's a couple more that are modern.
is that like even those kinds of movies, right? Like Apocalypse Now, it's like everybody's like, oh, it's such a gritty, realistic depiction of war, but it depicts like the tragedy of war, the psychological side of war, realistically. But I feel like this really showed like that people could stomach, like you can show like the real life brutality of war, which I feel like had been way less popular. It's way less popular before this. And then this coming out and being a success, showing that you can have these big budget, big set piece movies. They'll be successful. People will like them. People will go to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to kind of pull your punches on it. I think it like opened the door for a lot of the other ones. And I think because it's like you look at some of these other ones. Because I was looking at like the best war movies, and they all like the ones that people put at like the top of the lists are like Saving Private Ryan, was it Platoon and Apocalypse Now, which are like for Vietnam, and there's movies that kind of were like, let's be honest about it. Let's show like a more real version of it, and where you're like, okay, yeah, this has been done a lot. You know, like when we watched Apocalypse Now, I was like, some of these moments are cheesy, and it's like, well, because freaking Family Guy and American Dad have like episodes making fun of it. They're like spoofing it as like a paintball game in American Dad, right? Like so it's gonna come across as a little cheesy. Same with like, the Southern guy quoting Bible scriptures is cheesy, but was that something that was done a lot before Saving Private Ryan? Was it just copying that trope, or was it getting copied later?
Yeah.
That's
one thing that like why Spielberg isn't necessarily my favorite filmmaker, because he has that skill of making it a bit more general, Whereas, like, if I'm going to pick my favorite World War II movie, it would probably be, like, Inglourious Bastards, which is a wholly different take on this sort of thing.
Which,
but
I think one of my favorite is Hacksaw Ridge, which is...
Yeah.
I don't think you get a movie like that level of violence that's supposed to be, like, all heartfelt and about a pacifist.
Right, yeah.
Unless you get a movie like Saving Private Ryan that does really well first.
I think there's a lot of strengths to the movie. Doesn't pull any punches and tries to like really hit you in the gut and be like, hey, war is hell and this is what it was like for these people. But it also toes that line of like, hey, we'll throw in some light moments, some sentimental moments. It's not going to be 2.5 hours of just straight action. There is soldiers just talking and them at night, and you see different sides of the captain, and so I think that's really smart. And it's also sandwiches itself with like, it starts off showing the old man, and at the end it shows him being that's the other thing that it's not just a bloody movie. It's Tom Hanks' last words to Matt Damon are earn this, earn what we did, and at the end Matt Damon's like, hey, like like he's like, I did my best basically, but he also asked his wife, like, tell me I'm a good man, and she's like, yeah, and then she walks away. I was like, wait, hold on. I thought she would give a speech or something. It'd be like, you're the best man I knew, or like whatever. No. She was just like, I was like, okay, everyone's trying real hard here, and this lady's just like, yeah.
But also, I mean, my parents are very old, so this is gonna probably throw it off a little bit. But did your grandpas, are they out there storming Normandy, or are they like 7 when it's happening?
My grandpa was in Korea.
Oh, gross. I
know.
See, because like the joke was always, everybody's always like, my grandpa stormed Normandy. It's like, my grandpa blew up a bunch of Germans and then left.
Yeah.
That was his thing. He blew up the Germans, then he's like, I'm gonna get out of here. No like superhero stories, just like, I did my missions, I survived when no one like none of my friends did, and I left because they flew the planes, Cody.
Yeah, but
and then my dad was an accountant.
Yeah, I just think that's kind of the strength of the movie, is that it walks that line. It shows like the brutality of that war in particular, but it also has like a deeper message, which not every war movie does, because a lot of them, like you said, a lot of the movies are like, especially like you look at Apocalypse Now and Full Metal Jacket, they're very much criticisms, especially of like the Vietnam War. Yeah. Whereas like World War II is a war that like we can feel pretty good about getting involved in. It's probably the last war we can feel really good about getting involved in.
Well, I mean, Korea, I feel like you can talk bad about it, but I mean, Korea is also like, is it commonly called the forgotten war?
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's like, who cares?
Yeah. So I mean, but this is the last time that it was like, hey, we did a really good thing, So that also leans into it, but I feel like it also doesn't lean super heavily into the patriotism. Like, it's generically more about like brotherhood and sacrifice, and I think there's also that message of like, hey, for all of us, for every sacrifice that was made, let's earn that. Let's live our lives in such a way that we honor the sacrifice that was made. Yeah. But I mean, you watch those Vietnam and Iraq War like movies, and it's just like, it's messed up. Messed up what's going on here,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's why you could get the brutal movies about Vietnam because people were like
Mad about
people
it.
wanted to they
Yeah.
wanted it to be a brutal pointless war. So that's what all the movies depicted as, a brutal pointless war. When in reality, like that's one of those things, like if you look at it, it's like in reality the Vietnam War wasn't a pointless war. Like all those people in South Vietnam, that they died. They got killed mercilessly, brutally slaughtered as soon as. But it's like the same with the U.S. leaving Iraq or Afghanistan. The U.S. has a tendency throughout history to just be like, we're not having fun anymore. We're done, and then we leave, and the people that were like there relying on us are like, what? And then they all die. But like all those people that were being defended, it's like, I mean, they did some bad stuff. That's the thing, is it's like they're like, hey, what if we just start dousing everybody in napalm? You know, that's when it got a little out of hand. You know what I mean? When they're like, what if we drop Agent Orange and just kill all of the rainforests so that they don't have anywhere to go anymore?
Yeah, it's wild.
That's when it gets bad. But I mean, wars are always complicated, right? Like there were people that weren't into, like the whole reason the U.S. didn't jump into World War II for so long was because they were like, screw that, we already fought a war in Europe. These guys got themselves into this issue again. They were idiots and they let Hitler do whatever he wanted, so F them, you know. And then Japan was like, watch this pro move. Right, like that's basically what it was. I also I recently watched a documentary that really dove deep into like how hard was it? Who was it? Was it Rose? No, who was president when
Truman?
they attacked? Truman was president when they dropped the nuke. So he wouldn't have been president when
Roosevelt, and then
Roosevelt.
Truman.
Yeah, FDR. Yeah, like how hard FDR creamed his pants when they bombed, because he was openly like, no, F these Nazis and the Japanese, let's go to war with them. And then he just couldn't get support, and then when that happened, he was like, yes. It's just really funny how excited they were about it. They're like, oh, it's a national tragedy. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but
it's also wild too when you think about like how much we focus on the European theater of that war and how much like the Pacific is just forgotten. I was learning a little bit more about it this week. It was really interesting because they were also talking about how Japan's having to refortify Okinawa and all those islands now because they're worried about China. And so it's like Japan's building up their army for the first time in like 70 years, you know? And it's like very complicated issue because it's like, I don't know how to feel about it. All the people in Okinawa were like, remember when the emperor made us fight in this war and half of us got slaughtered? Like, you're just going to throw another military base on here, you know? But it's also like, we need protection. So it's interesting. I don't know. I didn't realize how complicated it was to take all those southern islands, and like they were like, we don't want to invade mainland Japan. That sounds like a nightmare, you know? Like,
yeah. Cody, all right, let me ask you. We're talking about World War II. You for or against the A-bomb? Tell me, would you have bombed?
Where do I stand on the A-bomb? Well, the question isn't whether you stand for or against it. It's whether it was real. And I think, you know, they got Kubrick and they went to wherever they shot the moon landing. They were like, no, let's shoot you dropping an A-bomb, you know?
Such a coward.
And that's how he was able to make, what's it called?
Moon landing?
What's the Doctor Strangelove? We wouldn't have Doctor Strangelove if he wasn't the one that helped them stage the A-bomb. That's how I feel about it. Oh, after learning what I learned recently, I'm like pro A-bomb. I was like, I was like, I think it was the quickest way to end that conflict. Although I did hear some speculation. They were like, well, Russia was about to get involved, and America was like, no, we want the credit. So it was like one of the contributing factors of the decision, which I think is an interesting take.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Everybody's like, Russia was about to do it. And it's like, yeah, you know, Russia, you famously just lost like 12 million soldiers or something ridiculous. And they tried to go to war with Japan, got beat so bad that they're like, yeah, we're just not going to bother over here. Because that's the other thing, right? They're like, Russia was right there. And it's like, yeah, that's like saying, well, the U.S. could invade Russia through Alaska. It's right there. And it's like, yeah, two impassable pieces of land that are like impossible to move large groups of people through. It's not like Russia was poised to pour in its entire army. They were also desperately trying to stabilize the regions that they were. Also, I mean, this goes back to like the U.S. troops had orders that's like, so if the Russians don't stop, shoot them. When you guys meet in the middle of Berlin, if the Russians don't stop, you shoot them. That was the whole thing. And the Russians were like, if the Americans don't stop, shoot them. Like America and Russia were poised to go to war when Germany surrendered, which is crazy. But like, it is interesting because like you make all the movies about the European theater, and not so much about the Pacific, partially because how do we handle like denazification versus rebuilding Japan, which is Japan. It's like we were like, oh, you poor baby, it's not your fault. You're beautiful. You're amazing. We love you. In Germany, it's like you're trash. You'll always be trash. You'll never be anything more than trash. Make all of the kids watch videos of like soldiers finding concentration camps and be like, you did this, kid. Like their propaganda stuff, like they would put up, let me tell you something that they did. Okay? They put up a blurry picture. They'd be like, what is this? And then come back a week later, put up a slightly clearer thing, and it's like you can tell it's a concentration camp, and you're like, "What is all this stuff?" Like, but you couldn't tell what was in there. You'd be like, "Who did this?" A week later, crystal clear picture of like the piles of bodies. You did this, and that's what they did to the Germans.
Yeah,
like this seems elaborate.
Yeah,
but anyway, I mean, it was like okay, but like I feel like so many points in the movie. To get back to the movie real quick,
yeah,
if I may. I feel like so many
this
points
is Fly
in the
Away
movie
Home?
are worthless because the geese are gonna die anyway. But like, in a way, like it does make sense though, right? Because you feel like I'm sure he meant it to feel like there's those moments when, the new guy. It's like I'm writing a book about the brotherhood of soldiers that he like. There's moments where he's like, yeah, this is the brotherhood, and then it's like. Yeah, that all crumbles under pressure or it like builds under pressure and it comes and goes. It's not as simple as like, oh, these guys, they're bonded together for life. It's like they could crack and all kill each other in a second. It's like really a flip of the coin, and like the reality of that. So I feel like I do understand what people mean by like, like the people who did storm the beaches of Normandy famously are like, this is what it was like. This is what it was like to storm the beach. This is what it was like to move across the country at the time. Like, there wasn't the battle lines like you think about them. It was like, hey, go here. And if you're just a small group of guys, you can freely move around, but you're gonna, like when they're in the town with all the paratroopers and the guy sits down, Paul Giamatti, to get his rock out of his boot and it knocks down the wall and there's they're inside the command post of the Americans. Knocks down the wall, and there's the command post of the Germans right there. And they all start, like, and then Ted Danson kills all the Germans.
Yeah.
Like, it's an accurate, realistic depiction of the early days of the invasion of France. And I feel like that's why it's not as fun of a movie to watch as some of the other ones.
Well, I will say, I'm not rewatching this anytime. Until like I would rewatch it if it was like Bailey or Jay were like, hey, I really want to watch this movie. I don't think Jay will ask me to watch this movie if ever, not for another 15 or 20 years, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So I would watch it with someone for them to experience it, but I'm not going to watch it again because it is like there's just so many harrowing moments.
Yeah, but again, I think even to that, it's like there's nothing quite as harrowing as you take some like Hacksaw Ridge, which has like these moments where it's like it looks like hell, and they're like pinned down behind a tree, and there's all this stuff going on, and it's like the reality was if you could stand there and you're invincible, or it's a video game that accurately shows what it's like and be detached from the situation, it probably wouldn't look that intense, but like. I mean, when you're leaned up against a thing, a couple bullets bouncing off of it would be terrifying. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 bullets or 5 bullets. It's like one of those hits you're gonna die. It'd still be scary.
My hot take is Hacksaw Ridge is a great movie. I don't think it's quite as good as everyone says it is.
I mean, I like it because it made me cry.
Oh yeah,
You
it'll
know,
make you cry. It's a
it'll
very
make you
good
get you
movie
there.
for sure.
But I think like it's a very dramatized version of what happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's all builds up to that moment where he keeps going back up and getting people. You know, and then you're like, he's doing it, and it's like, and then they're like, and he really did it, and you're like, but at the same time, it's like if it was that many bullets flying through the air and that intense, he wouldn't have survived going up there a second time. You know, so it's
So he must
I
have carried
think
them all down at once.
exactly.
Got Kubrick to
It's
stage
like-
it. I bet they probably rigged it up with pulleys and stuff.
Uh,
I seen
you see
Peter
all
Pan.
I mean, you see all those things, right, where it's like, oh, these bullets collided in midair. You know, that's how many bullets were in the air. And so here's the thing I say to that: there is in like the British Museum, there is a box with 2 bullets that collided together at Gallipoli because of the pure amount of FU in the air. The amount of lead being sprayed, the amount of guns on both sides, it was like battleships with dozens of machine guns pointed at positions with dozens of machine guns pointing back with dozens of machine guns like all over, and bombs and planes and everybody shooting at everybody, and there's like one instance of 2 bullets hitting each other. It's never that intense. That's also like an entire like section of the British military was just all wiped out. You know, it's never that crazy. So it's never going to be as intense as it feels like it should have been. But I bet you if we were there, let's be
I'm
real.
just saying,
Cody, would you
I've been
poop
to
yourself?
paintball, you know. So
It
Tyler,
hurts.
what are you gonna rate it? This was your idea. I'll remind you.
I mean, I was going to give it a worse rating. I feel like you've talked it up a little bit. But I think as a movie to watch now, at the time, I'm sure it was an A+ movie. Because what else could even compare to it at the time?
Right. Shakespeare in Love, for one. It's Gwyneth Paltrow.
But I feel like now I'm going to go with this.
Ooh, Shakespeare. You know?
I'm going to go with a C+. I'm going to put it just above the midpoint.
You're dropping a C+ on a movie that won 5 Oscars? I mean,
and I think it's because it's been talked up so highly for so long.
So
and I'm
wrong.
just disappointed.
I'm giving it an A. It's not quite an A+ for me. It is an A. It's a great
came in here
movie.
tearing
It
this
does
movie
things
apart.
very well. I think it's well written. I'm very impressed by like the feat of, you know, them shooting. And it's not just the beach scene. It's really like a lot of the combat I think is very well done, and it captures the performances I think are great. Even like Language Nerd Boy, when he's like on the stairs just like shuddering with his bullets, you know, it's just, I think there's a lot, I don't know, and I like the message of it. I think that's very powerful. I'll drop an A on it. It's not quite an A+ for me though. It's not quite like, A+ is like nigh unto perfect. A is like excellent. I think it's excellent.
I'm shocked that you came in here giving it an A.
I mean, look, it would have got an A+ if that dude didn't let both those guys die, you know? If he shot that guy that was stabbing his friend, and if he shot Tom Hanks' killer before he shot Tom Hanks, it's an A+ for me.
Yeah, which I think if it was like a movie made nowadays where they're going to dramatize it a little bit more, he would have had this whole redemption arc. He would have saved the Jewish guy and they would have shot the other guy, and Tom Hanks maybe would have still died, but he would have, you know, they would have tried to save him or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, but to the movie's credit, which I'm sticking by the C+, but to the movie's credit, that's not very realistic. Like if you're freezing up in battle, it's not like you're suddenly going to be like, no, my friends need me. It's like, no, it's like that's just how you are reacting to combat in this situation. You're not going to overcome it, except in like incredibly rare circumstances. And I don't think it's a bad, I mean, it's a bad thing in that like your friends die because of it,
but it wasn't
not
really his
necessarily
job
like,
or respect, you know, like he wasn't fully combat trained. He was supposed to be a translator, you know.
But also,
He
like,
was writing a book.
some people just can't handle it, and some people can. And it's have heard it's unpredictable. Like you'll see guys that are like, yeah, no, he's gonna be super soldier, and the second that first bullet gets fired, he cracks.
I've been to
And it's
paintball.
not coming
I know
back.
it's not me. You know, I know it's not me. I'm not the guy.
But that's the thing. Like I talking to one guy, he was like, yeah, you go to like like I think they did like airsoft for fun with this guy, and they're like, he's the biggest weenie you've ever seen. But I've also seen the guy run across the street while a 50 caliber machine gun's unloading into it.
Well,
you know, it's like,
what's wild is the paintball I went to. It was like 30 people on either side, and it's like a massive. It's like one of the cave ones, and it's just like it's like a two giant lines shooting at each other. They have other ones where it's like rooms you go through, you know. But the one we were at was like, no, it's just like two lines of 30 people all taking cover and popping shots. Like it was, you know, it was
Those
like this, I gotta just take cover, I guess, you know. Got shot in the penis. So, Tyler, you want to whip out the machine?
I was gonna update it too, but I didn't.
Of course you
It's
didn't.
fine.
I updated
I
mine,
never
and I think
do.
I gotta take some things back, you know?
I need to put some more bad movies on it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. I'm gonna
appreciate it.
do the
Do
thing.
the thing.
Ah, Cody,
What do we get?
first off, okay, hold on. No, hold
you
on.
didn't share your thing.
Tell me about your penis for a second, okay?
Oh, it's not that I got shot in the penis. It's I got shot in the penis at least twice, and I got shot somewhere between 3 and 10 times as I fell to the floor. So it was really bad. It was like a game of capture the flag, and I was like, no one's moving forward, no one's advancing. I've been here all night. I gotta try. And it was like, oh, there's like 12 dudes waiting for someone to move in. So yeah, no, I got rocked.
So
It was
Cody,
real bad. I mean, I thought I thought my testicles might fall out. You know, I thought they might just drop off, and they didn't. They stayed put, and I managed to have a child. So, moral of the story is,
that's the winner.
I would have been one of those dudes that got like shot, but it just passed through my, you know, and didn't hit any organs. That's probably what I would have been.
Yeah, you know, you're just like, look, I've played Sniper Elite. I'm aiming for those balls, you know? That's what every sniper's aiming for. You're wanting to pop some eggs, you know what I'm talking about? Oh, Cody. So I did the machine.
Okay.
And so I had to look up a thing. The movie that popped up also won 5 Oscars.
What? What is it?
Gladiator.
Hold on. You haven't seen Gladiator, have you?
I've seen it once before.
Oh, okay. You've seen Gladiator. Wow, wild. Okay, real throwback. You're really, I mean, you're probably going to hate it too, because it's also from the same era, you know?
I mean, look, I'm just saying there's better movies about Rome.
I mean, it is just in time for the sequel. It's going to be coming out here.
That's the whole reason I put it back. I put it on my
Yeah.
list. Is, the sequel coming out,
Wow.
you know?
Look at you.
But just prepare yourself for me to really talk about
I'm not
Commodus
ready, dude.
and how much everybody loved him, but also they hated him.
Yeah.
But he went in there, he went into the Gladiators, and everybody was like, this guy's pretty cool.
Wow. Well, Tyler, I want to thank everyone for listening. You can rate, review, share our podcast, or chat at us at Opinion Havers. Until next time, watch movies.
And I have opinions. Like, I didn't take any of the bad movies out. I took like one of them out. And I added like a handful of good
Don't
movies. And
believe
it's
you.
only throwing the good movies
Don't
out.
believe it. You doctored that algorithm. You're no better than Stanley Kubrick.
It's fine. Oh, wait, Cody, hold on. No, we can't. We can't
No.
end it yet. This is part of the stinger still, okay? Because you know what we didn't do?
What?
Hold on, let me pull up my assistant real quick. Just real quick here.
You have an assistant?
I have my assistant. I need
What
a
am I doing
message.
wrong?
My assistant. Oh,
What's your assistant's name? Probably.
my assistant is Degrees to Dracula.
This one's gonna be like 2.
Oh, here we go.
There's too many people in this movie for it not to be like 2 or 3.
It walks me through the whole process. That's a lot of steps.
How many?
All right. So here we go. Here, are you ready? Now
Yeah.
we're skipping the whole thing, right? Because
Okay.
it's like we're just doing the find a common link. Tom Hanks starred in Catch Me If You Can with
Oh,
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Bad start.
Leonardo DiCaprio, and it starred in Inception with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, terrible.
I feel
start.
like you're gonna go with Leonardo DiCaprio. You could get there in one more step. I guarantee it. Right? Joseph Gordon-Levitt starred in The Dark Knight Rises with Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy starred in Mad Max Fury Road with Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult starred in Warm Bodies with Teresa Palmer. Teresa Palmer starred in Lights Out with Gabrielle Bateman. Gabrielle
What?
Bateman starred
Who's
in
Gabrielle
Annabelle.
Bateman?
I think it's the mom from Lights Out. Gabrielle Bateman starred in Annabelle with Ward Horton.
That's
Ward
also
Horton
not a real
starred
person.
in Annabelle. Okay, it's using Annabelle twice.
It's
With-
broken.
Alfred Woodland.
I'll find
Alfred
out
Woodland
right
starred
now,
in
dude.
Captain America: Civil War with Dominic Cooper, who played Mehmed in Dracula Untold. This makes a total.
I saw
of 9
Dominic
degrees of
Cooper's
separation.
butt the other day. Bailey was showing me one of her shows, My Lady Jane. He's out here showing cheeks. I saw him. I looked over at her and I said, "Is that Howard Stark?" And she didn't even hesitate and said yes. And I was very surprised that she knew.
Hold on, I've posed. Is there a shorter path? Hold on, let me ask.
Yeah,
Is
please
that
do.
the shortest path? Just checking again. Here's the thing with ChatGPT and why you gotta be patient with them. All right. He's doing his best. Okay.
Okay.
It is not. It's given me. Okay, so 5 seems to be the shortest. Wait,
5's not.
but
too
this is
bad.
only 4.
4. There
This
you
path
go.
also results in 5
Lord
degrees,
Horton
but it's
in it?
4. All right, so Tom Hanks starred in Charlie Wilson's War with Philip Seymour Hoffman. Philip Seymour Hoffman starred in The Master with Amy Adams. Amy Adams starred in Man of Steel with Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill starred in Immortals with Luke Evans, who played Dracula/Vlad
There
in
you go.
Dracula Untold,
That's better.
which is 4 degrees, right? It says
Yeah.
that's a 5, but that's 4. It gives me another path that goes through Looper.
Oh, that's a good movie.
goes the-
Oh, remember Looper?
I do.
Well, this has to stop.
4 degrees. Cody, it's having a resurgence, I'll have you know.
Yeah.
Netflix got Dracula Untold, and everybody's like, this is a fantastic movie.
You gave Dracula
That's my
Untold a
opinion.
better grade than Saving Private
Yeah, I did.
Ryan.
Yeah, I did.